Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste and a very warm welcome to everyone joining us for this session in our Weekend with Wisdom series. And in this series, we have been discussing the text Atma Vidya Vilasa of Sadashiva Brahmendra. And this will be the final session in this series. We have with us Sri Swamini Svatmavidyananda Saraswati ji, who is guiding us through these talks. Thank you once again, Swamini ji, for joining us. Let's begin.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Let's begin this session with an invocation. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunattu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Over to you, Swamiji.
Thank you. Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murtibheda Vibhagine Vyomavatvyaptadehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. We have been seeing the lifestyle of a sage who is not and who is living in a totally unencumbered way, unencumbered by possessions without which one cannot live, or so one thinks, unencumbered by relationships without which one thinks one cannot live, people, and unencumbered by titles such as doer, experiencer, and someone having this kind of accomplishment, that kind of accomplishment, all these things, completely free of that. So much so that even looking at the, even looking for a bed is not necessary, because Mother Earth has made all the prabandha, made all the arrangements for everything. And so living a very a life that is going with the universal flow, and that universal flow is Ishvara, and that is Ishvara's flow in which one is, and this kind of a sage very rare to find. And so now we will finish the rest of the verses and then end with some discussion on how living in this day and age, how can we adopt some of this, the spirit behind the lifestyle, if not the lifestyle itself that is recommended, and why this spirit is important to have, especially for the jnani wannabes. If one is a jnani wannabe, I want to be a jnani, then how to use this lifestyle as a lakshana, as a kind of a practice, so that one can one can develop that same, cultivate that same vairagya that the writer of the author of the Atma Vidya Vilasa has, and then develop that, and then let go of so many encumbrances that come in the way of assimilating this knowledge. So now we are on verse 55. Let me just cue it up there, and then I will share that. Okay. वस्तुन्यस्तमित विश्वविहारे विलीनमनाः राजति परामपेक्षः राजाखिल वितरागाणाम् राजा अखिल वीतरागाणां राजा परान् अनपेक्षः राजति. So this we have seen in detail. The king of the yogis, who is the king of the yogis? The king of all of them who are free from raga and dvesha. Vitaraganam, dveshanam also we can take both of them. Raga includes dvesha. So people who are free of strong prejudices and preferences, there are so many people in the world, let us say, and out of them this kind of a yati, this kind of an ascetic shines, and he or she is para anapekshaha, not dependent on anybody. And this can seem like an anomaly. I wanted to just mention, why is this an anomaly? Because earlier we said bhiksha patra, bhikshu, bhiksha patra, he has or she has, and goes and begging for alms. And then, so how do you say that they are not dependent on people? Because they are begging for their alms, because they are begging for the needs, food, shelter, etc., clothing. All these things are got by begging. And so how do you say they are not dependent on anyone? They are not emotionally dependent. That is the idea. They are not in kind of a dysfunctional relationship. Vastu means Brahman. Vastu means you. That's what it is. So in that Vastu, Vastuni, and what is this Vastu? Astam Akhila Vishwa Vihare. Vishwa Vyavahare also you can take. So this Vastu, which is in the form of that from which all kinds of activities have departed. All kinds of activities have gone. How have they gone? Because they are mithya. Activities are mithya means activities are dependent on the Vastu because of the Satchidananda Vastu, which gives its satta and its phurti, which lends its existence and its sentience to all the things in the universe and blesses all the activities, itself actionless. This is the Vastu. So all the activities are because of the borrowed presence and the sentience from the Vastu. The Vastu directs these activities without becoming the actor or without becoming a hub of activity. So therefore, this Vastu is free of activity, but the activity of the sanchara, the movement, the give and the take, the adana, pradana, and all the sanchara of all the jivas is not free of the Vastu. But from the standpoint of the Vastu, it is free of all activities, all movement, everything. So that Vastu which is free of all activities in the whole world, which is free of even the world itself, the universe itself, in that Vastu, Vastuni, in that Vastu, Vilina Manaha San Rajati. So the yati is absorbed in that Vastu and does not notice things that come and go. And then all worldly activities keep on going and coming and doing things, everybody. But I am with the source. I am one with the source. Iti, very beautiful verse. And then next one, Acharya Pangadrisha Samavapta Parasamvidakarah Prashamita Sakala Vibhedah Paramahamsah Kaschidabhati. Kaschid Paramahamsah Abhati. One kind of the most exalted ascetic shines. Shines how or why? Why does the person shine? The person shines because of many reasons. First is Acharya Pangadrisha. Acharya Pangadrisha Samyak Avapta Samavapta Parasamvida Akarah. So Samavapta Parasamvida Akarah. means the person has gained the akara, the form of what? Samvit, apara samvida akara, praptam yena, samavaptam yena. So the person has gained that akara. Akara means that oneness, that identity with that samvit. What is samvit? Atma. Samvit is a fancy name for Atma, that's all. So that Brahman, that Atma, that truth which is free of the Jagat. The Jagat is not free of the truth. The Jagat leans on the truth, but the truth is free of Jagat. The truth is free of doing. The truth is free of being this thing or that thing or anything in particular. And the truth is oneself. So that has been nicely samyak praptam yena, samyak aptam yena. So by that person, this akara of the Atma, and the akara means the form of the Atma, and this is a little irony here, that formlessness is the form of the Atma, and so this formless Atma one has become, again within quotes, so to speak, one has become the formless Atma, and in this understanding of oneself as Atma, there is that oneness. Apara means it is just infinite. Without it is limitless. In that having fully assimilated and quote unquote become one with. It's not that one becomes one with. One is already one with that, but recognizes oneself as one with the limitless consciousness. So apara samvid akara. Then how do and then what? Prashamita sakala vibhedah. The person is also prashamita sakala vibhedah, for whom all the differences and the divisions have been resolved. There are no differences and divisions. Everything is me alone. Everything is non-separate from me. Iti, the person knows. So, prashamita sakala vibhedah and samavapta apara samvidakaraha. How did this person become like this? How did this person resolve all the differences and divisions unto oneself? And how did this person become within quotes, become one with that consciousness which is limitless? Then the cause is given, the hetu is given here, acharya panga drisha. We I look, the sidelong look of the Guru. Acharya Pangadrisha. So because blessed by the sidelong glance of the Kataksha of the Guru. There is another word that is used, Acharya Katakshaya, Katakshena. So then because of the Kataksha of the Acharya, then one has gained this knowledge and become one with that limitless consciousness which one has studied about, and then has understood that oneness with everything, and then that oneness has brought a resolution to all differences, all bheda, everything. So this Paramahamsa Kaschid Abhati. So this Paramahamsa shines. Again, another wonderful verse. And then the Acharya is brought in here to show that this was gained by the Guru. And then it was transmitted to the Shishya. Then again, if we ask, how can a sidelong glance give such a big knowledge? It was not the glance, but it was the teaching. The glance is just is a gift. That's all. It's a gift. It's a miracle. It's wonderful. But it is what transforms is the teaching. So it's the glance which conveys the teaching. And so this, because of the teaching, this person has been some Paramahamsa has been transformed. And then next one, Varanashrama Vyavastham Uttirya Vidhuya Vidyadin. Here it's not Vidyadin, it is Vidhi Adin Vidyadin. It should not be the, but the. Vidyadin. Okay? Yeah. So that is a correction we have to make. Varnashrama vyavastham उत्तीर्य विधूय विद्यादीन् परिशिष्यते यतीन्द्रः परिपूर्णानन्दबोधमात्रेण. So, uttirya, going beyond, casting the shackles, going beyond what? Vyavastham. Vyavastham means the arrangement. Going beyond the arrangement of these hierarchies in society. Hierarchies in society means what? Oh, the you are high, you are in the next line, and you are next in line, and you are low, and this is how it is, and this is how the arrangement is. Don't rock the boat, etc., etc. You have to participate. Now, why have to participate? Because that's how it is. You are in this particular status, and that's where you were born, and that's how you have to be. Or you are in this particular stage of life. Now you are a student, and therefore you have to study. What if I want to drop out? No, you cannot drop out. Is the neighbor dropping out? No. Is this one dropping out? No, you cannot drop out. There are all these rules for various stages. This is what you have to do. Rules means swadharma. There are certain things you do, certain things you don't do. All these things are there. So, Varnashrama Vyavastha, this Vyavastha has a purpose. It's not that the Yati is a rebel, like a kind of a gone rogue kind of a person. Like, why should I follow this? I don't want to follow this. I hate rules and they are very, very constricting, and so I'm not going to follow them. No, not like that. In a way, the Yati has gone beyond the need for these hierarchies. Because if everything is one, Prashamita Sakala Vibhedaha, we saw earlier in the 56th verse. And so, when all the differences have been resolved, when all the Yati sees is only one thing and oneself, what is the use of all these Vyavasthas? This is the question that is asked in the... so, the three Vedas, and which the three Vedas, all the Vedas, what do? They give a certain vyavastha. It is full of vidhi and nishedha. It is in the form of injunctions and prohibitions. Please do this. Suram na pibet. Please do not drink alcohol. Do not drink alcohol. Swadhyayo dhyetavyah. Swadhyayah adhyetavyah. You must study your own Veda. Your own Veda must be studied. And then Satyam Vada Dharman Chara Swadhyayat Ma Pramadah. Like this, all these injunctions are there and prohibitions are there. That is what makes up the Vedas. So then these injunctions and prohibitions are of use for the Ajnani, but not for the Jnani. How? The Bhagavad Gita gives a very nice analogy. The Bhagavad Gita says that imagine a village full of wells and little ponds and everything, where you go for your drinking water. So this is Udapana. So you have some bodies of water, wells, ponds, etc. So Yavanartha Udapane. So as long as those wells are there, then people go to draw the water from this well and that well, and they enjoy the sweet water, etc. Supposing there is a flash flood and all the wells and bodies of water are covered, they are all covered in water. So there is everything is covered in water, including the wells. Now, do the wells have any reference, any meaning? Do you say, oh, this is my well, don't come near my well, my great-great-great-grandfather dug it, it belongs to my family. You will be laughing at yourself saying that with a straight face, because where is the well? Oh, well, you have to say, where is the well? There is no well. Well. There is no well because everything is underwater. So similarly, for the person of knowledge, all these rules, the Shastras, do this, don't do this, everything is of no use. They have transcended Swadharma. The Swadharma is for the sake of this knowledge, is a preparation for the sake of this knowledge. They have transcended that. And they have transcended the Varna, Ashrama, Dharma, all these rules, karma, all these things they have transcended. And then they have also Vidhuya, means also throwing away Vidhyadin, Vidhi, Adin, Vidhi, etc. Vidhi means like horoscope, and which is the good muhurta to do this, which is an auspicious time when to eat food. All these people, sometimes people see. And then, I should do this before Rahu Kala. There is some Rahu time, and that is not also good. So, during the course of the day, it's very difficult to find a good time because half of the time it is something inimical forces are in play. There is Rahu Kala, then there is Gulika Kala, which is also bad, and then there is Yamaganda, which is again bad. And then there is Marana Yoga. Sometimes it will be said Marana Yoga means it will be completely a kind of yoga means a kind of a time period where you cannot accomplish anything. Don't even try. So in between that, if you try to find a auspicious time, it is a challenge. So really speaking, for the yogi, every day is auspicious because every day is Brahman, and Brahman is the most auspicious thing there is because it never comes to an end and it is the source of all happiness. So therefore, there is no reason to look at the almanac and then try to make some calculations when to do this, when to do that, what is auspicious for me, etc. So parishishyate. So all that is left is the yatindra, and then and what does the yatindra do? What is the yatindra? Paripurna ananda bodha matrena parishishyate. Itham bhute tritiya. So paripurna ananda bodha matrena means in the form of that limitless fullness, which is ananda, of that ananda in the form of that knowledge. Only in that form the yatindra stays. The yatindra, the ascetic, is in that form of the of ananda alone, which is that fullness of that consciousness. That's how it is. Very nice. Next one. Kshayamupaneeya samastam karma prarabdham upabhujya pravigalita deha bandha prajno brahmaiva kevalam bhavati. In the Mundakopanishad, there is a Vakya. Brahmavid brahmaiva bhavati. So here, prajno brahmaiva kevalam bhavati. Bhavati must not be translated as becomes. There is nothing to become. In fact, the art of becoming is very unbecoming, and so that is not something to become at all. There is nothing to become. So, but we are constrained in terms of grammar, which verb to use here. So, bhavati should be translated as is. So, prajnaha, the person of knowledge, kevalam brahma eva bhavati, is Brahman alone, is Brahman alone, not becomes, is Brahman alone, is nothing but Brahman. And then how does the person become Brahma? Then kshayam upaniya samastam, having brought everything to a close, all actions, all sankalpas which lead to actions, etc., having concluded all of them. And then samastam karma, kshayam upaniya samastam karma, all actions have concluded. What do you mean? Does not the yogi eat lunch and dinner? Yes, eating is an action, but the person does not identify themselves as an actor. This is the idea. So then prarabdham upabhujya, exhausting whatever karma that is there. Whatever karma one is need to exhausting that. Pravigalita deha bandha. This dehatma buddhi has gone. I am the body, iti buddhi, has gone for whom? That is the prajna, that is called the enlightened person, the person of self-knowledge, prajna, and then kevalam brahmaiva bhavati, is nothing but Brahman alone. There is no jiva anymore, it is all Brahman alone. Very nice. Then verses number 59 and then 60, 61 and probably 62. Yeah. So 59 to 62, the 59 to 62 talk about the Vastu itself. So what is it that one knows? What is it that one is identifying with? Is talked about very beautifully in the next so many verses. Let's see. Sthimitamanantamanadyam santatamanandabodhaganam avikalpamadyamekam sanmatram vidyate kimapi. Sthimita means motionless. It means many things, but one of the things it means is free of all motion, still. It is still, it is unmoving, anantam, endless, and by beginningless, by logic beginningless. Therefore, anantam, anadyam, beginningless and endless. Santatam, unchanging, same, being the same in all periods of time. Santatam, ananda bodha ghanam. It is in the form of that which exists. Santatam ananda bodha ghanam is a very clever way of saying Satchidananda. So it is Santatam, it is ever present. Ananda, it is in the form of happiness, endless happiness. And then bodha ghanam, it is just a mass of knowledge. It is all knowledge. Bodha ghanam is used. Ghana means dense, meaning there is nothing other than knowledge here. So it is just knowledge alone. Then avikalpam, what kind of a knowledge? That which does not is not in the form of parts. It's not in the form of parts. It is without any parts, without any without any divisions, without any choices. Without any adyam means that which is primordial, which was there even before time and space came into being, which was always there. Sanmatram means that which is the truth of everything, including the five elements. Sanmatram, it's Sat alone. Vidyate kimapi, there is such a thing which fits this description, and that is Brahman, which is you. That's what is going to be told. Next one. Aksharamajaramajatam sukshmatara purva shuddha vijnanam pragalita sarva klesham paratatvam vartate kimapi. So here again, aksharam. This is all taken from the Upanishad. Yaya aksharam adhigamyate. Sa paravidya. That paravidya is described in the Mundaka Upanishad as that because of which the indeclinable one is known. And that indeclinable one is you. That one thing is Brahman alone, which is ajaram. Ajara, not subject to jara. Jara na vidyate yasya ajara. Tam ajaram. So then this ajaram, it is there, and this jara means geriatric stage. Maybe the word jara is the root for the word geriatry, old age. Ajatam, unborn. Sukshma tara. Sukshma tara means totally subtle, because it is beyond objectification, it cannot be objectified. Sukshmatara. Then Sukshmatara Apurva Shuddha Vijnanam. Apurva means very unusual. Apurva also means moksha. In the context of this knowledge, Apurva means moksha. So it is in the form of that liberation you can also take, and then it is in the form of that knowledge, Shuddha Vijnanam. Why is it called Shuddha Vijnanam? Because it purifies you. It purifies you of the raga dveshas, knowing which one feels that one is free of guilt, hurt, papa, punya, resentment, fear, all these things, sorrow. Then therefore it is Apurva Shuddha Vijnanam. Pragalita Sarva Klesham. Klesham means all kinds of sorrow, fear, misery, difficulties are called klesha. Pragalita. So the Pragalita means from which all kleshas have departed, melted. And then Paratattvam. Paratattvam means Paratma Tattvam, Paramatma Tattvam. So this Tattva, the truth of the Paramatma, which is myself alone, that is there, vartate. This kind of a thing is definitely there. It's almost like in the final verses, Sadashiva Brahmendra is iterating what this teaching is all about and urging people towards this knowledge, advertising this knowledge in beautiful verses. Next one. Sukhataramamaramaduram saram samsara varidhe stiram samarasamabhayamaparam tatkinchana vidyate tattvam. Sukataram. Sukataram means sukha. It is in the superlative. We have superlative sukhatamam, or we have what is the other one called? Comparative. Sukataram. So here it's in the comparative. Sukataram, amaram, aduram. Amaram means not subject to death. Aduram means not far away from you. Never away from you is this consciousness. In fact, it is you alone. So therefore, knowing this, you cannot feel alienated or disconnected at all. It is just absolutely impossible to feel disconnected. So Sukataram, Amaram and Aduram. And then Saram. Saram means it's the very essence of the whole universe. It's the essence of the truth of the universe. Samsara varidhehe tiram. Tiram means across. Across what? Across the ocean of samsara. The shore of samsara means one has crossed over samsara, knowing which one crosses over samsara. So Sukhataram, Adhuram, Saram, and then Ajaram, Amaram, all this we have seen. And then Samsara Varidhi means the ocean of samsara. That which makes the ocean of samsara into a mere notion of samsara. That is how one crosses samsara. Because if the ocean is real, how can we cross it? And if the ocean is not real, there is nothing to cross. So the ocean is notional. It's the notional ocean that is crossed. And this is exactly what happened to Mirabai, who went to her guru. She sings for swimming lessons. How to swim the ocean of samsara so that I can cross it. And then she says the guru turned her vision completely. She had a 180 revolution of vision, where when she opened her eyes after the teaching, she saw that there was no ocean to cross. There was no ocean to cross. The ocean was just deemed by the guru to be a notion. Excuse me. Because one believes in that, the notion can very easily become an ocean because of Atma Ajnana. And so samsara varidhehe tiram. Tiram means across that which takes you to the other side of samsara, the ocean of samsara. And then Samarasam means that it is the same in all periods of time. It is not, heyopadeya varjita. So there is no apachaya and there is no upachaya. There is no heya and so it does not grow. It does not shrink. This Atma Tattva that we are talking about, this Brahman, does not grow and does not shrink. So samarasam, heyopadeya varjitam, apachaya upachaya rahitam. It does not have any kind of shrinkage, growth, change, rotting and growing. It has now, Brahman has a baby, vriddhi and kshaya. Na vriddhihi yati na kshayam. This is also is there in the Upanishads. These lines are there in the Drishya Viveka Upanishads and some other Bhagavad Gita also. It is just iterated here to remember why this yogi is having this kind of a lifestyle which is in keeping with this knowledge. So aparam means beyond, which is this transcendental knowledge. And samarasam aparam tat kinchana vidyate tattvam. That kind of a truth is there. Abhayam, not subject to fear. Not subject to fear. Abhayam, not subject to, free of fear. Aparam means without limits, limitless. Because it is limitless, it's free of fear. When there are two things, when there is something other than oneself, then there is fear. And if there is nothing other than oneself, what is there to be afraid of? Nothing and no one. All that is there is oneself alone. And so this tattva is like this. And then I think this is the last one which is there. Let us see, which describes this. Arasamagandhamarupam virajaskamatamastam nirupama tattvam tatkimapi dyotate nityam. Arasam means it does not have any taste. What is the taste of Brahman? No taste. Because it is not captured by the sense organs. Same thing, agandham. It does not have some kind of a curious fragrance by which we identify food stuff and by which we identify the flowers. A curious fragrance comes. Oh, what is that? Frangipani. There is a particular flower, tropical flower. Hawaii and all, it will grow. India, of course, it grows. This frangipani has a very heady incense. Wherever you smell it, you say, oh, that is frangipani. So that is not there. Oh, this is Atma scent. No scent. Arupam does not have a form. Then virajaskam. So virajaskam means from which the rajas has departed. And then asatvam, from which all this sattva guna has flown away, and from which atamaskam, from which the tamas has also gone, meaning free of all three gunas. The gunas are there for the manifest universe of names and forms, but that truth, because of which the manifestation takes place, is free of all gunas. Otherwise, if Atma had rajas, it would get angry. If Atma has tamas, it would want to go to sleep. So this is how we have to understand this. Nirupama nirbhaya tattvam. And what is this essence of the Vedanta? That which is has no comparison. Why? Because it's the only one. How can you compare it to anything? Nirupama, nirbhaya, free of beyond all fear, tattvam, tatkimapi, something like this is there. It shines all the time. Dyotate nityam, without any flickering, without any up and down, the flame going up and down. Nityam dyotate, always shines. And actually, the Atma Vidya Vilasa concludes with this verse. Why? Because we'll find out here. This is what he says in the 63rd verse is the conclusion. But I think that at least the 65th verse is an later interpolation. Maybe the 64th one also. We'll find out. Iti guru karuna pangad आर्याभिद्वर्यधिक षष्टिसङ्ख्याभिः निरवद्याभिरवोचम् निगमशिरस्तन्त्रसारभूतार्थम्. Iti means this is a concluding verse. This is very clear because whenever you begin with iti means in this manner, thus ends. Thus ends what? The Atma Vidya, this text called Atma Vidya Vilasa, which is the prasada, which is the prasada of the grace of the Guru, which has been brought out by the grace of the glance of the teacher, means the essence of the grace of the teacher. So in the Arya meter, Arya Bhihi, this Arya meter is what we have been chanting. Two ways we can chant. One I tried that chanting earlier in the morning class. We chanted it slightly differently to show you that there are two ways of the Arya meter in which it can be chanted. So now there might be other ways also, but these two ways are the common ways in which it is this meter is chanted. So Arya Bhihi, Aryabhidvarya, Aryabhidvaya adhika Shashti Sankhyabihi. In the last 62 verses, through these 62 verses, Niravadya Niravadyabihi Avocham. We have talked about in these 62 verses in the Arya meter, in these 62 verses which are flawless. Imagine someone calling their own work flawless. How can you have the temerity? Because he is so much one with Brahman and he knows that when he is describing Brahman, there is no flaw in Brahman. So when he is describing Brahman also, there is no flaw possible. So in this flawless meter, in this noble meter, in these 62 verses, we have described this Nirabhadyam, that which is flawless we have described, and that which is described is flawless. And so what have we described? Nigama Shiras Tantra, that which is the head of the Veda. We saw the same construction earlier. Head of the Veda. Even though the Upanishads are at the end, they are called that which is the head of the Veda. Why? Because the whole Veda is to prepare for the Upanishads, which the study of which comes at the very end. So Sarabhutam, Bhutartham means the essence of that, the meaning of that. So the essential meaning of the Upanishads have been brought out in these 62 verses. So the person says. And then what else? And I think these two, 64 and 65, are later interpolations by the Shishyas of the Guru called Sadashivendra. And so that they are more in the form of the Phalashruti, what is gained by the chanting of this or by meditating on this, by doing nididhyasana of these verses, by contemplating on this kind of a lifestyle, what is gained. Maybe a later Shankaracharya or somebody who was impressed by this has added to it. It is clear that there are only 62 verses because the author himself says so. Gaditamimatma Vidya Vilasa Vilasamanusvasaram Smaran Vibudhaha Parinata Paratma Vidyaha prapadyate sapadi paramartham. So by meditating, contemplating on what? The Atma Vidya Vilasa. Anuvasaram means every day, day after day. Anuvasaram, week after week, day after day, meaning all the time. Meditating upon this, smaran, remembering this, vibudha means the person of knowledge. Parinata paratma vidyaha. The person becomes completely one with this knowledge of Paramatma, and then gains this knowledge. Prapadyate sapadi, gains this knowledge, acquires this knowledge immediately, knowledge of oneself as Paramatma, the person gains. And then after that, what happens? So then, not much else to say. It is like a phalashruti composed by some later person, some later scholar in the tradition. And this is also a common practice. Nobody says, oh, this work is complete, you should not add. Something they feel like adding, they will add. They will not change everything, but they will add one or two things to make some things clear. Because phalashruti is generally given, and then Sadashivendra did not give. Sadashiva Brahmendra did not give phalashruti because there is no phala at all here, and one is not a phala kankshi. One has already talked about this earlier. He had already talked about one has, nirapeksha, one is not expecting anything, and one is not, there is nothing to gain, nothing to lose. So naturally, in his style, he will not be offering any kind of phalashruti. It will go against the tenor of the whole thing. Still, yet somebody has gone and written this phalashruti. We just respect the tradition, that's all. But really, it is very clear that this kind of a text does not need any incentive for people to chant, and does not need any goodie promises. Like if you chant this, you will become one with the Lord. You don't need that. No, just like when this Panchakshari, Shiva Panchakshari, Om Namah Shivaya, or that Shiva Panchakshari Stotram, Nagendra Haraya, if you chant, then it says, Shiva Lokam Avapnoti, Shivena Saha Modate. One will become one with Shiva, one will dance with Shiva, rejoice with Shiva, rejoice in the form of Shiva, if you want to take it as Itham Bhute Tritiya. And then all this, that may be appropriate there, because in the shloka you are seeing Shiva as somebody who is dispensing grace and blessings and karma phala, and so you are trying to propitiate Shiva, and there it is appropriate. But here there is no deity, there is no propitiation, and so the phalashruti is not at all needed. Still, since some scholar in the tradition has written it in keeping with the convention, we just respect that. That's all. No harm done. And then Paramashivendra Shri Guru Shishyene Sadashivendrena Rachite Yamatma Vidya Vilasa Namni Kritif Purna. This verse is really nothing except saying that this the Shishya, by the Shishya of the Guru, Shriya Yukta Guru, by the Shishya of the Guru, blessed with abundance of knowledge, obviously, who is called Paramashivendra, by that Shishya, whose name is Sadashivendra, by him Rachita was composed. Rachita iyam Atma Vidya Vilasa namni kritihi. So this kriti rachita. So this kriti, this composition called Atma Vidya Vilasa, named Atma Vidya Vilasa, was composed, and now it is Purna. Means it has come to an end. So then, let me stop the sharing So we can come back to some kind of a concluding remarks about what is the, how to look at this text and assimilate its artha and its purport and its significance from the standpoint of the contemporary world. Because if we look at the contemporary life, the thought of becoming an Avadhuta becomes very daunting. I have to go somewhere in the forest, and then I have to sleep on bare ground. And then what about wild animals? Forget wild animals, I can't even stand the sight of a cockroach. What about other wild animals? I don't know how I'm going to fare. So this is the situation. And so how to understand this? And it is a treatise on being able to live freely without fostering a lot of dependencies. When we foster a lot of dependencies, then life becomes extremely complicated. Dependencies means I can't do without this particular brand of coffee in the morning. Yeah, without this, but not just any coffee. It has to be this particular brand, and it has to be harvested from Guatemala, and then it has to be sun dried on certain kinds of rocks, and it has to be processed in a certain way. Then it has to be imported, and then it has to be made in a particular way. Then only my morning starts. So instead of chanting the Pratasmarana Shloka by Adi Shankaracharya, the Pratasmaranam, there is a very nice 3 verses, very nice shloka is there, how to begin one's day. But here what the person does is Pratasmarami coffee. This is how it is. I remember this particular kind of coffee. Without that, what happens? My mood is offy. Without this particular coffee, not any coffee, it will not do. I have to have it in a certain way. This is a dependency. This is an addiction. And the corporate world in which we live, the capitalist world, has no other business except to foster more and more dependencies. They make you want more and more things. And then instead of letting go, we keep on accumulating so many things. And they are advertised, oh, this will make your life so much easier. Oh, all right. All right, okay, just one, it will not harm. And then that one dependency leads to many other dependencies. So the Atma Vidya Vilasa at best is a reset button. It's like when you press the button, you immediately come back to yourself and say, do I really need all these things? Do I need these props? Do I need all these things? This is exactly what is needed. And everybody's heart, especially those who are spiritually minded, those who are in the service of this Vidya, their hearts are they yearn for simplicity. And simplicity is really godliness. There is something very attractive about living a simple life. As much as you need, no more, no less. And then enjoying what is there. And therefore growing into an uncomplicated person. An uncomplicated, non-demanding, appreciative and contented person. That is who one is at heart. That is why that simplicity attracts. One wants that. One wants that above everything else. But that call is not heeded because one comes in the spell of the contemporary society, where one comes under the spell of what all other people are doing. And then one's life is extremely complicated. Or one has a sense of insecurity centered on the self, and then as a result one complicates one's life by making oneself a kind of a beggar of the universe. Like, oh, give me this, without this I'm not whole, without this I'm incomplete. So then all these things, and you go, and even in the West, it is just made so much kind of a thing. Once I saw some advertisement for a jar opener. And what is the jar opener? Jar opener, we have been opening jars for so many times, so many years. Decades of jar opening is happening. But then this jar, this is a special jar opener, and this is what it does, and all these things. And then, I saw when they showed what this jar opener is, some advertisement on television, I suppose, and it was just a hand-sized kind of a rough towel. That's all it was. It was a little kind of a rough towel with which you just, without slipping, you open the jar. And that costs $9.99 and supposed to make your life easy. Okay, maybe if somebody, I can understand, if somebody has arthritis in the fingers or has some kind of a problem with strength, okay, no problem. Get it, enjoy it, you need it. But if we don't need it, if it's just one more thing to add instead of using our fingers, then this seems ridiculous. Like that, there are all these things that are ridiculous, which one holds and one keeps on thinking one cannot be without. And unfortunately, those things, those do not confined, those dependencies do not remain confined to things. They extend to people. They extend to all kinds of situations, events, people, everything that one, feels one cannot be without. And one is always without them. And then miserable. And if only I had this, I would be happy. So similarly, in this way, one is always outward focused, outward oriented, outward bound, and no time to look at oneself. No time to look at the antahkarna, filled with all these raga dveshas, filled with all these yearnings, and no time to direct the yearning, to understand that the yearning is for the Atma, and to direct the yearning there. No time, no space. This is the first thing we have to understand. We have to understand that it may be a far cry for us in our generation and in our life, accustomed as we are to lots of comfort. It's a far cry to go and sleep on a sand bank somewhere or on a bed made of a slab of stone. Far cry. I don't think that's going to happen. But how can I have the inner disposition of that sannyasi who is talking about all these things? How can I take, this is what we have to ask ourselves, how can I take the spirit of this talk? How can I take the spirit of this text? The spirit of the text is very different from taking the text literally and then finding a place to go stay. That's not the idea. The spirit of the text means there is vairagya. And then, as the Bhagavad Gita describes, santushto yena kenachit. This is in the 12th chapter. Santushtaha means contented. Yena kenachit. By anything that comes, anything that is there, it's okay. Santushtaha. Happy with whatever comes. And then elsewhere also, the same sentiment is repeated. Yadrichha labha santushtaha dvandvatito vimatsaraha. Yadrichha means that which has been got by prarabdha. You didn't ask for it, it has come into your life and you're happy with it. You don't try to go stand in line and return it like people do with Christmas presents. You don't bother to do that. You just use it. Or if it's not of use to you, you give it away to somebody else. Simple. You pass it on. You give it away to someone else. Kaam ho gaya, finished. There's nothing more to do. And then dvandvatitaha, beyond all these dualities. And so like this, the Bhagavad Gita also talks about that. So this is the person must have the inner disposition of cheerfulness and non-wantingness both together. Because that wantingness and misery go together. So therefore, if one cultivates that non-wantingness, then one also cultivates the cheerfulness, because both of them are connected. And then that kind of a simplicity, not taking anything from anybody, not asking anything from somebody, and at the same time, if anybody gives, not unopposed to anything. And of course, we can do some things to increase the vairagya in the life. That is exactly what is needed. Increase the vairagya by letting certain dependencies drop. And then when the vairagya quotient increases, the clarity also increases. And the misery and fear go down. And so that is the essence of the Atma Vidya Vilasa. And this is how one can practice even at home. Doesn't matter. And so, this way, one is on the way to knowing what the great sages knew and enjoy. One can hope to enjoy inner sannyasa, inner avadhuta status, because really there is nothing to show for it outside. So that this kind of an inner sannyasi one can be, and one actually should be. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you very much. I have really enjoyed this text, and I hope you have too. And if there are any questions, there may be one here. Let us see. Very interested to know whether there are women jnanis. Of course, there will be women jnanis. And there are texts related to whether the text related to women, yatis, and how to transcend issues specific to women. Now, first of all, I think that, yeah, of course, there are women jnanis. And it is true that the texts are directed towards men and written by men. This is also true. And then I don't see that there are texts. I don't know of any text related to women yatis. But we can have snatches of it, like in the Sulabha Janaka dialogue. Sulabha Janaka dialogue means in the Mahabharata there is a yati by the name of Yogini, who is a sannyasi by the name of Sulabha, and she goes to King Janaka for Vada Bhiksha. She says, I want to have a debate with you. And King Janaka cannot refuse her, because here she is wearing orange and she shows up at the door of the palace. So he has to bring her inside, wash her feet, and give her all the respect due for a sannyasini. And then the debate begins. And then she finds out that he's not. She finds out that he's not really being honest. He's thinking something and saying something else. He's saying, oh, I'm not affected by all this, or something he says. But then she finds out that he is affected. And then she points that. And he says, how did you know this? She says, because I can enter your head. I can enter your mind. And then he says, how dare you enter my mind? You have violated me. You should not have entered my mind. And so then they debate even more. And then after that, he acknowledges that she has won the debate. So there are certain things like that. There is the story of Sulabha, and there is so many other stories are there. Gargi in the Upanishads, famous Brahmavadini, the teacher of Brahman, etc. And then issues specific to women, how to transcend, means that there are, I think, first of all, we have to not really look at issues as specific to men or women. There will be issues specific to men. I'm not denying that. And likewise, there will also be issues specific to women. I'm not denying that either. But I'm wondering how helpful it is to say that this is a women's issue. Because again, we are making it very, very compartmentalized. So having said that, the second thing I will say is that the issues specific to women are resolved like any other issue, which is put in the fire of knowledge, and then all the kalmasha are burnt away. All that is there is Bhagavan alone. That is how one has to do it. One exposes that issue to knowledge and to the light of the knowledge, and then things become very clear after that. How do you move forwards? Any particular method to meditate. You just sit, and some of these last 59 to 62, those verses are all for meditation. And even if you cannot remember Ajaram, Amaram, Nityam, etc., you just read the translation repeatedly. Keep reading the translation and say, this is what I am. This is who I am. This is exactly what I am. And when you do that, it gets internalized, because now that you know the meaning of Ajara, Nirupama, Amara, etc., incomparable one without a second, Advaya, you keep saying that is not the Vastu, that is me, that Vastu is me alone. This is how to keep on owning up the knowledge. Okay, yeah. Any other questions? Oh, there's one more. Is it correct to say that other people's actions towards oneself are Ishvara Srishti? And so, well, not always. Not always. So I should accept them as they are. Well, you should accept them as they are, because this is how they are and they cannot be. It could be Ishvara Srishti plus mixed with the Jiva Srishti of that Jiva's free will being used wrongly. It could be a amalgam of both. It is difficult to tell, like with all karma, this is very, very difficult to tell. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. Om Tat Sat.
Thank you, Swamini ji. Dear
Thank you.
viewers, thank you so much for joining us in this series and taking part very, very committedly over these 6 sessions, 3 days. Please follow us on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay updated on our upcoming sessions. With that, thank you so much once again. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha.
Om Tat Sat.